After being gone from AEW television for over a year, it is now being reported that former AEW TNT champion Wardlow is reportedly feared to have suffered a torn pectoral muscle following his return to AEW television recently at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. We've got all of the details and more in this news update. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling, and we begin with some very unfortunate news if you're a fan of former AEW TNT champion Wardlow. Fightful Select are reporting they have learned that Wardlow has sustained an injury almost immediately after returning from a year-plus absence. Sources in AEW that Fightful spoke to said that the injury is feared to be a torn pectoral muscle, which would sideline him for quite some time. Now, there is a possibility he could remain on TV in an enforcer role, but again, we don't know the details on the severity of the injury. Now, according to Fightful Select, it was suggested that the injury actually took place upon his return angle, but that isn't confirmed. Wardlow had missed about a year with injuries, but was cleared a number of months ago. However, he was held off AEW television as he had to film the first 2 seasons of American Gladiators, which has since been completed. A number of talent that Fightful spoke to were expectedly bummed out about the news after Wardlow had waited so long to get back on TV and battled back from injuries. Of course, we wish him the best in his recovery. If we get any more details on the severity of the injury, what's next for the former TNT champion, we'll let you know in an upcoming video. Now, MJF, he recently got married, but reportedly he's unhappy about photos from his and Alicia Atute's wedding leaking on the internet. Apparently, some of the photos were gathered by fans from family members' Facebook pages. This is what they were saying on the Wrestling Observer Radio, beginning with Brian Alvarez. He said, quote, "So apparently they didn't put any of those photos on social media. What happened was, it was fans that went through like the family Facebook albums and they got pictures and posted them. This was not something that like MJF or Hangman or anybody in the company went out and did. This was all fans finding pictures from family albums and putting them out there on the internet." That's what Brian Alvarez said. Dave Meltzer added, quote, "I know that they're not particularly happy it happened. It's not the end of the world. I mean, everyone knows and this and that. It's still, especially for people who kind of have the mentality that he, MJF, would have and that I would presume Paige would have, but I don't know if he would have in the sense that he wouldn't want that out there." Now, Tony Khan was among several notable AEW names in attendance for the recent wedding to celebrate the union of MJF and Alicia Atute. A photo and awkward exchange previously confirmed how the lifelong wrestling fan had a great time at the ceremony, and now sources are revealing a look at Khan's backstage reputation and what he did to free up his schedule for the Devil's wedding. MJF, as I mentioned, is now an honest man, believe it or not, after he got married to his longtime partner Alicia Atute on Friday, September 5th in East Norwich, New York at the Pine Hollow Club, a member-only country club that also hosts weddings and other events. Now, Ring of Honor, of course, presented its 22nd Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view on Friday, August 29th at the former ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This was the second night of AEW's 2300 Arena residency and its only standalone ROH event. Now, Tony Khan, in the past, has received criticism for various reasons, while also drawing praise from All Elite Wrestling diehards. The internal opinions of the sports executive also vary, but Wrestling Observer Radio noted how it's no secret that the 42-year-old will never miss a show if he can help it, which comes with his reputation of being a hard worker. Now, ROH originally announced Death Before Dishonor for July 11th at the Esports Arena in Arlington, Texas during All In weekend. However, weeks later, the event was changed to Friday, September 5th at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But 3 months later, the date changed to Friday, August 29th. At the time, sources within AEW and ROH were unable to confirm why the changes were made. The rumor mill claimed it was due to a wedding, but no other details were provided. Now it's been revealed that the schedule was reshuffled so Tony Khan could attend the wedding of 2 of his employees. The wedding of MJF and Alicia Atute is the reason for Death Before Dishonor taking place at the end of August. Officials wanted to hold the pay-per-view last Friday, but it was moved up because Khan was invited to the wedding and he wanted to attend, but is not going to miss one of his wrestling events. So That is why that show was moved. Now, this is an interesting what could have been when it comes to John Cena's retirement tour, a match possibly against Rob Van Dam. Now, John Cena's WWE retirement tour could have included a match against RVD if things went differently. On TMZ's Inside the Ring podcast, RVD revealed that there were talks for him to face Cena at some point this year. RVD feels like the match was going to happen, but the possibility was derailed when he broke both of his heels in April. Quote, "Let me tell you this. I want it to be one of the return matches for John Cena on his retirement tour," RVD said. "I was talking to them. There was a lot of interest. Without giving away too many details, we were probably going to do it, and then I broke my heels." RVD, of course, is a famous opponent from Cena's past, with their WWE Championship match from ECW One Night Stand 2006 being among the most memorable moments of John Cena's career. The double heel fracture RVD suffered happened at MLW Battle Riot 2025. Before that, he had not wrestled since competing for AEW in April of 2024. TMZ asked RVD if he feels like he has a small WWE return run left in him. He said, quote, "Sure, it's possible. I think anything's possible, and I'm not ruling anything out. Personally, as far as whether I want to continue or not after my heels are completely 100%, I change my mind like every few days about it." So it's an interesting what certainly could have been. RVD is under a Legends contract with WWE. He's made a couple of on-screen appearances for the company in 2024. Now, let's talk about the ratings for last Friday's episode of Smackdown before getting into a bit of a bigger discussion about ratings later on in this video. But, of course, last Friday's episode of Smackdown included an appearance by John Cena, the long-awaited return of AJ Lee. Brock Lesnar was on the show as well. And WWE Smackdown got a sizable ratings increase on the night the show aired on USA. The episode averaged 1.585 million viewers on USA Network, which is up 38.2% from the previous week. It's the largest audience total for the show since July 25th. Smackdown topped all of TV with a 0.51 rating in the 18-49 demo, nearly doubling the closest competition. That's up 82.1% from last week and ties the best rating the show has done in that category since April 18th. Though not included in the TV charts, there was competition from a YouTube-exclusive NFL game between the LA Chargers and Kansas City Chiefs that averaged more than 17 million viewers globally. Lee's return was not officially announced in advance, but it was all but confirmed, with WWE heavily hinting that she would be on the episode. As compared to the same week in 2024, SmackDown's viewership was down 10.5%, while the 18-49 rating was up 13.3%. The episode 1 year ago was the last SmackDown on Fox. Now let's go over to AAA here and talk about Vikingo versus Dirty Dom at Worlds Collide. Before this past Friday's episode of SmackDown, there had been more talk about the new creative team WWE had put together for AAA than there had been matches for the upcoming Worlds Collide event in Las Vegas. The full card was announced soon after, though, save for the headlining match between El Hijo del Vikingo and Dirty Dominic Mysterio for the AAA Mega Championship, which had been set in stone for the last several weeks. Many remain surprised that Mysterio isn't already the champion, having been expected to win it from Vikingo at Triple Mania in August, only for Vikingo to shockingly retain. It's a decision that most do not expect to happen again, including Dave Meltzer. On Monday's edition of Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer seconded co-host Brian Alvarez's prediction that Mysterio would become the new AAA Mega Champion at Worlds Collide. Quote, "I think it should be a title change too, yeah," Meltzer said. A few minutes later, the discussion then turned to how fans would be able to watch Worlds Collide, as the platform had yet to be announced. Meltzer is of the belief the show will be available on the same place the first Worlds Collide and Triple Mania aired, but noted it would create a conflict given SmackDown would be taking place the same night. Quote, "As of the last I heard, it was not announced for YouTube," Meltzer said. "It will probably end up on YouTube, I'm guessing, but it's starting right when SmackDown ends, except on the West Coast, where they're actually going to be going head-to-head because the West Coast first and SmackDown's delayed 3 hours, so it's 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock local live time." Now, as far as another possible return to AAA, another Mysterio, that being Rey Mysterio. Now, with WWE purchasing Lucha Libre AAA, Rey Mysterio is excited about the possibility of returning to the promotion where he first made his name. Mysterio starred for AAA in the 1990s and later returned for another run in the 2010s. It seems inevitable that he'll soon compete for AAA again once he's back from injury, and being able to simultaneously represent WWE and AAA is something Mysterio is looking forward to. Quote, "I would definitely love that," Mysterio told WWE's Raw Recap podcast about returning to AAA. "That's something that I was able to do at one point right after maybe 2014. I came back to AAA, and again, at that time, didn't even realize that this was going to happen. And now that it's happening, I really can't wait for the opportunity to be able to step in the ring and be able to represent both companies that gave me my opportunity in life, in my career. So I'm very excited for that day to potentially come." And Mysterio has been involved in some of AAA's events since the WWE acquisition, most recently inducting his friend Conan into the AAA Hall of Fame last month at Triple Mania. A torn groin has kept Mysterio sidelined for nearly 5 months now. The injury happened right before WrestleMania and forced Mysterio out of his scheduled match against El Grande Americano that was then portrayed by Chad Gable. The next WWE and AAA Worlds Collide show, as I mentioned, is taking place in Las Vegas this coming Friday night, with Rey's sons Dominic challenging El Hijo del Vikingo for the AAA Mega Championship in the main event. Now let's talk about ratings here, a very controversial topic, but the way that ratings are being calculated could be changing. Now let's begin first with the ratings for the last couple of weeks of pro wrestling. If you've noticed that every program seemingly across different companies has struggled. Over the past 2 weeks, most of WWE and AEW's major wrestling programs hit record low numbers across both cable and streaming, and in a recent edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer provided some insight on the decline in viewership for both promotions. Last Monday, WWE Raw posted their lowest average viewership on Netflix, which came as a surprise to Meltzer, who usually expects the Red brand to draw their worst totals when the NFL season is underway. For 2 weeks, Raw aired live from Europe, meaning that the show broadcasted in the US during the afternoon, which seemingly had a negative effect on viewership. Furthermore, Meltzer believes that Raw's numbers for the August 25th episode were manipulated, with Netflix initially having 2 versions of the show available, one of which featured commercials. Netflix claimed the final rating was 2.6 million viewers, which Meltzer feels is nearly impossible given that more people had to watch the longer version of Raw, estimating the real number is closer to 2.1 million. As for the August 29th edition of Smackdown, having the show air on a 5-hour delay in the US on cable seemed to make the largest impact, with the program only drawing 1.147 million viewers, making it the lowest number the program has recorded aside from multiple broadcasts on FS1 in the past. Usually the Blue Brand's least watched episodes throughout any year have been those that air on holidays, but even the 4th of July episode of Smackdown performed better than last week's edition of the show. That said, Smackdown did face intense competition, with 4 college football games placing above it on cable. The September 2nd episode of WWE NXT was the only wrestling program not to hit record low numbers, with Meltzer outlining that the show drew 655,000 viewers despite it airing during the same time slot as America's Got Talent. NXT increased its audience by 6.3% from the previous week, while also ranking 3rd among men across all networks in the 18 to 49 demo. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for WWE's reality programs or exclusive shows, with WWE LFG posting 87,000 viewers and their Greatest Moments show on A&E drawing 116,000 viewers at 9 p.m. due to college football. Now, in terms of AEW's ratings, well, of course, as I mentioned, it's not been pretty viewing for them recently. Now, TBS and TNT were also unable to escape low ratings, with AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision both performing terribly this past week. The September 3rd edition of Dynamite drew 472,000 viewers and a 0.11 in the 18 to 49 demo, with both ratings being the lowest numbers the show has recorded in a normal Wednesday night time slot. Along with Dynamite ranking outside the top 20 on cable for the day, the show lost over 100,000 viewers from the previous week, which had an audience of 585,000. Collision also drew under the 200,000 viewer mark for the first time since February this year, with college football once again proving to dominate its competition. Meltzer noted that AEW's viewership has taken a hit since beginning their residency at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He explained that the venue lacking a major league look has seemingly made a significant difference, with Dynamite being down in viewership by 33.6% since last month, and Collision losing half their audience in just a few weeks. Meltzer continued to note that Dynamite ranked below programs such as NASCAR, Smackdown, 5 sessions of the US tennis tournament, and the 9 college football-related shows. Overall, even with Collision Collision posted solid DVR numbers, or AEW still generating a strong audience on HBO Max, Meltzer feels there's nothing positive about the company's ratings last week. Finally, Meltzer explained that wrestling is not the exception for weaker ratings as of late, with cable stations such as TBS, TNT, and USA hitting record lows as well, with the return of football and cord cutting being the main reasons for the decline in viewership. But maybe this is going to change when it comes to how ratings are calculated. Now, after WWE's monumentous media rights deals with Netflix and ESPN, many people have questions about how to go about finding information about viewership statistics and metrics. Nowadays, it's hard to get clarity on which shows, movies, and live sports are performing well on all of these different streaming platforms due to their secrecy around their numbers. Now it appears Nielsen is figuring out a way to assign ratings to different streaming content, starting with live sports, that will help the public and media executives determine viewership across platforms. Brian Fuhrer, the senior vice president of Nielsen, gave a quote to Front Office Sports about moving forward with a more modern rating system and that there may be a lag with new reports. Quote, "There's going to be a bit of a lag, but I think everybody has really leaned in and said, okay, this is still going to be worthwhile. Everybody's on board with the new structure. It's about using the right number at the right time." Dave Meltzer gave some more information into Nielsen's new venture in The Observer, reporting that Nielsen is launching its new Big Data Plus panel measurement this week, starting with the NFL and other major sports. Spearheaded by the NFL, it addresses undercounting that left streaming viewership out of ratings, sometimes by 5 to 20%. Nielsen is currently collecting data from Amazon Prime, Netflix, and YouTube, with talks underway for ESPN+, Tubi, Peacock, and Paramount. While not all platforms or sports are covered yet, this shift could raise reported numbers, boost ad rates, and create the perception of growth compared to last year. However, sports like pro wrestling, which have lower live viewing percentages, may see less impact. Meltzer corroborates the reports that it will take longer to process than traditional ratings, but certainly something interesting to watch out for in the future. Now, the AEW Tag Team Champions are heading to CMLL. Bro Dido will defend their AEW Tag Team titles against Galeon Fantasma on September 12th at Arena Mexico. CMLL confirmed the match on Monday, September 8th. So that is confirmed. This will be the second title defense for Bro Dido. They won the titles in a three-way match at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, defeating FTR and the Hurt Syndicate in a triple threat match. Maven had some positive things to say about AEW, and it generated a response from AEW President Tony Khan. In May 2025, Maven posted a new video on his YouTube channel that spotlighted his backstage visit to an AEW show. The video garnered a ton of attention online, allowing fans to enjoy Maven's conversations with names like Dustin Rhodes, Thunder Rosa, and Billy Gunn. Speaking with Errol Hawani on the latest episode of the Errol Hawani Show, Maven touted the promotion's backstage environment, saying that Tony Khan actually cares about his talent. He said, quote, "That environment seemed like a good place to work. Great vibes, and Tony Khan seemed like the best boss to work for. I know he gets a lot of critics online. I sat and watched. They were about 30 minutes away from ending the show, and my contact told me that Tony wants to meet with you. He just has to wait until, obviously, the show is over. So I sat and watched Tony for 30 minutes, and every wrestler that came out of that ring, he got up from producing chair, took his headphones off, made sure everyone was healthy and happy with the match they just had. You can tell when someone cares as opposed to when someone's going through the motions. He cares. I left and told him to his face, you've changed my perception on what I thought you were. Everybody that I talked to seemed to be happy to be there and seemed happy with the product that they were putting out." This actually generated a response from Tony Khan on social media. You can see it on the screen right there. He said, quote, "I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much, Maven." And he also praised Errol Hawani, someone he has had a frosty relationship, shall we say, with in the past. He said, quote, "Fair play to you for posting this, Ariel." So interesting comments there by the former WWE superstar Maven. A departure from the National Wrestling Alliance here. Max the Impaler announced they are departing the National Wrestling Alliance. Quote, "I am no longer with NWA. I am thankful for my time there and everyone that supported me. For now, that is all I have to say," wrote Max on social media. Now, Max has been with the NWA since 2022. They were a former NWA World Women's Television Champion and NWA World Television Champion. Max competed at NWA 77, losing to Nihan in a street fight. They are featured on the poster for NWA Samhain, which is scheduled to take place on October 17th. If we get any more details on their departure, we'll of course let you know in a future video. Speaking of departures, Valhalla officially seemingly is now gone from WWE. Valhalla has been moved to the WWE.com alumni section. Valhalla, also known as Sarah Logan, announced back in early June that her contract with WWE would not be renewed following her second run with the company. Valhalla, who is married to Eric of the Viking Raiders, has been off television since early 2024. She gave birth in November 2024 but did not return to WWE programming prior to her announcement of her upcoming WWE exit. Now, Valhalla has been officially removed from WWE's active roster on their website and has been moved to the alumni section, signifying that her WWE deal has come to an end. A bit of an update here on Mr. Anderson and his future in TNA Wrestling. Now, TNA Wrestling held Impact tapings in Minneapolis, Minnesota on Friday, September 5th, and the show featured the surprise return of Mr. Anderson, who wrestled in a TNA ring for the first time since 2016. Anderson, who resides in the Twin Cities, was initially introduced by Frankie Kazarian, who tried to get the former TNA World Heavyweight Champion to turn heel. Kazarian failed, though, and Mr. Anderson was later attacked by Jake Something, with Kazarian's Bound for Glory opponent Steve Macklin making the save. This set up Frankie Kazarian and Jake Something versus Steve Macklin and Mr. Anderson for the main event of the taping, and the babyfaces scored the win after 16 minutes. Post-match, Anderson took out Kazarian with a mic check, and the show came to a close with Mr. Anderson doing his Mr. Anderson catchphrase and sending the fans home happy. The former Mr. Kennedy may not be back in TNA Wrestling in the near future, however, as Ken Anderson revealed on his Mic Check podcast that his return was a one-off which came together over the past 2 weeks. Quote, "I don't know. I can't say anything other than the fact that, like, as far as I'm concerned, as far as anybody is concerned at this point, it was a one-off. It was an opportunity. TNA was here in town. A bunch of people, a bunch of friends of mine, Nick Nemeth, Matt Hardy, Frankie, Tommy Dreamer, all sorts of put in a word like, we're in Ken's town, maybe we should do something with him. Also Ross Foreman too. All of this transpired in the last 2 weeks. It just got put together probably in the last week. Frankie reached out to me and said, hey, I've got an idea. I'm going to pitch it, Anderson said. So seemingly he's just a one-off, but you never know, I suppose, in the world of pro wrestling. Sting has spoken about his retirement from professional wrestling. He said that his retirement match at AEW Revolution in 2024 went exactly how he had envisioned it. His sons Garrett and Stephen Borden took part in his entrance and got involved in the match that night, delivering Stinger splashes to the Young Bucks. Asked about seeing his sons in face paint as Wolfpack Sting and Surfer Sting, Sting said it was probably the highlight of 40 years for him. He said, quote, "It was exactly as I envisioned it being. It was like a dream, a surreal kind of situation to actually witness it, even though I had pictured it happening exactly the way it did. But an amazing night," he said to the Wrestling Classic. "It's just going to be etched in my mind forever. It's probably the highlight of 40 years for me." Now, the interview took place at WrestleVerse Fest in Chattanooga, Tennessee on August 30. Sting is currently in his 2025 or Never tour, in reference to it being the last events he will appear in the full Sting makeup. He said, quote, "It's not a goodbye, just no more of this," the face paint, Sting said. So, Sting, if you still want to see him in the makeup, you still got the chance for the rest of this year. And finally, The Rock has revealed just why he's dropped all of this weight recently. Now, fans noticed that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, had a new look at the Smashing Machine press conference in Venice. Speaking to Variety, Rock explained that he dropped the weight to portray a whimsical, eccentric 70-something-year-old called Chicken Man in Lizard Music. Benny Safdie, who is directing the Smashing Machine, will also direct Lizard Music. Quote, "Benny pitched me this after about 45 minutes, this pitch ended and I said, 'I am your Chicken Man,'" Rock said at the Toronto Film Festival via Variety. "I still have a long ways to go. I'm so excited to get a chance to hopefully transform again, like I was able to do in Smashing Machine. It means eating less chicken." The film is an adaptation of a Daniel Pinkwater novel and tells the story of a septuagenarian whose best friend is a 70-year-old chicken. Of course, if we get any more details on this, we'll let you know in future videos. The Smashing Machine opens in theatres on October 3rd. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.